changed my life.
Been very emotional.
All right, here we go. Welcome back to the podcast. We're up to episode, I have no idea.
29.
There we go. We're back. So today we've got a special guest. We have the superstar that lights up every room she walks into, the OG of female gyms, the incredible Nerida BInt.
Aww. What a welcome.
Had
Thank
to add
you
a little
so
bit
much.
in there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't say that.
Yeah, had to mix it up. Had to put a bit of Tahi spice on it.
Yeah. Thanks for coming, mate.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
You're so welcome.
Such an honour.
We did invite you like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
It's just either busy or forgotten.
I must admit, I've been watching you interview all these incredible people and just keep responding, when's my turn? When's my turn?
Every single week I get a message off Nerida. It's just like, it's coming. Podcast.
I hope people aren't let down with this episode after all the superstars you've had on here. So
You superstar yourself. don't
Exactly
worry.
right. Exactly.
They've
How
got
are you?
me.
I'm really well.
Good?
Really well. Yeah. Probably the best I've been in a long time.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, really good.
Nice. What's been going on?
Well, I've had a huge sort of year. Life is very different right now to what it was a year ago, and a couple of years before that, it's just always evolving and changing. Right now, I'm working as a life mentor, so I work with a lot of women to work with their subconscious blocks, beliefs, help them overcome themselves, sort of like the stuff you guys do. I tend to work with a lot of female founders, like business women. Love working with couples in relationships, people on their healing journey. Just anyone that's feeling a bit stuck, a bit lost, a bit confused and just not really sure how to move forward. I know what mentorship and coaching has done for me in my life, how much it's changed my life forever. So, yeah.
What a fucking intro that is.
Yeah, I was just so caught up in that day. I was
I
like,
looked over you then, you're like,
I was sort of like, maybe I should wrap this up. Like,
no, I
you've
was
got
in it.
to,
I was just
We-
like, fuck, here we go.
No.
we need a little, you
I
need
just
a
started
little
thinking
signal.
in my head. Seriously, I was like, I could get some help here. I was just like,
honestly, you need to lead it because I think both of us are, you need to take us. You need to take us. So
I'll take you on a journey.
Just-
we
take
actually
us.
need to do a couples therapy because it's always my fault.
We can unpack that right now, guys.
Oh, no, please don't.
Yeah, no, I do love to talk, so just feel free to wrap me up anytime you need.
I'll just do a silent little click to the side.
Yes.
Let everyone know.
Girl can talk.
Last weekend was the first weekend I cried at one of my events, so let's just give me a break.
Yeah,
for a second.
Yes.
it was strange. He was like doing his speech to like say thank you, and then like the thank you just kept going, and I was like, oh, this is different, and then it just kept going, and I just looked at the Keisha, and I was just like, oh, here we go, and then he just went on this big, and then he's like wiping tears, and I was like, shit, here he goes, he's really in
Yeah,
his
it's
feels.
nice to let people see you emote.
Yeah.
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 And then I was like, oh, so I wonder if he'll do it on the men's day. And then it sort of started. I nearly did. And then he like brought it back. He's like, no, I've already done it once. Don't do it
Aw.
again.
Not today.
Not today, Satan.
I love
I was
that.
all sweet, and then a thought come in my head. I was just like, "Fuck! I actually owe a lot to Tahi and Acacia." Oh yeah, they're right behind me. And then I started talking about it, and I was just like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I just looked to the ceiling and I was like,
Yeah.
don't make me cry. I didn't listen to a word he said. Once I heard him say Tahi,
do you know
I was
what?
like,
Do you know what ticked me off? Like not ticked me off, but like kicked me off. Sorry. I looked at Ellie, and she was just like, like this, and I was like, fuck, that was shit.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Anyway, enough about me and my
he's still in his feels, obviously.
massively. I cried with Luca this morning. I don't know what's going on. 30s are bringing on the emotion.
I had a few people
Yeah.
message me and they're like, am I meant to be feeling this way? And I was like, just feel whatever you're meant to feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Be fine.
big weekend.
Yeah.
Big weekend.
All right. So back to
All right.
Nerida.
Yeah, back to
Back
you.
He's had his moment.
Yeah, I'll shut up now.
Well, normally it's me, but this is good. I like this. So let's just start from the beginning with your journey.
Yep.
So I met you when you started Lisome.
Mm-hmm.
So let us know like what's happened since then, because a lot has changed. You've still in the coaching room, but
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, well, I suppose my journey has taken a lot of twists and turns, like anyone's does. I don't know if you know the story behind why I started Lisome, but have you heard that story?
Hit me.
Yeah.
So yeah, you probably
let
wouldn't
everyone know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so I'm 40, just turned 40. So it'd be 12 years ago now. I arrived home from living overseas. I went overseas with my partner at the time. We did the whole working visa in the UK thing. And I don't know if you've heard of the term that people go over there and then get a shot of the Heathrow injection. Like you come back 10 kilos heavier because you're partying, you're eating, whatever, you're not exercising.
I've had a fair few of those injections.
I was about to say, fuck, I must have been over there. I've been on that fucking thing for a while.
Yeah, well, I actually,
Got my booster at the start of the year.
Pretty much. Like, I came home, but actually like 20 kilos sort of heavier than I'd ever been.
Yeah.
And I was really struggling. My partner and I at the time bought a house across the road from a CrossFit gym. This was like years ago. So before CrossFit was a thing. Like, I'd never even heard the term. And I remember seeing, this CrossFit gym and I would watch them in the mornings, like, I'd see women lifting barbells, climbing ropes, doing pull-ups, skipping, running, rowing, whatever. And I just thought to myself, what is this? This looks incredible. And I just knew that would be the thing that would help me lose this weight. So funnily, ironically, most women, as you would know, are pretty intimidated to go and join a gym for the first time.
Yeah, especially CrossFit gyms.
Yeah. Me, no. I had none of that. I was just so naive and just like assumed. I just kind of went straight over there. So excited, like basically going over there to saying, take my money. Like I would have been a Shaw member. And the owner at the time, I'll never forget it. It was like a time in, my whole life that I'll never forget. I walked in and I was all excited. I just couldn't wait to get started. Just wanted to talk to someone about how I could get started, what that looked like, how much, whatever. They could have charged me anything really and I would have signed up. And the owner sort of slowly started making his way over to me. And I just remember noticing him looking me up and down and very standoffish. And then I was sort of asking him questions, asking him how this works, like where do I sign up? And he looked me up and down and he said, darling, this is not for you. And so I just like instantly felt obviously humiliation, embarrassment, shame, walked out like almost in tears.
We name and shame him.
Yeah, no,
Sorry?
Well, that's
I say, can we name and shame him?
Yeah, no, I never have and I never will. But, it's just one of those things, right? He's just one of those people that doesn't value, helping people in their journey no matter what. He coached elite athletes. That was all he was interested in.
Money.
Yeah. Well, not even. Elite athletes in CrossFit make up something like less than 1% of the people that do CrossFit. So actually, like it's not a money thing, anyway, let's not even go down that path. This isn't to rag on CrossFit because I went on to spend the next 10 years training CrossFit gyms. Weirdly, I ended up joining a gym down the road, not from that incident. It took me months, bumped into a friend. He said to me, he looked really good. He'd lost all this weight. I said, what have you been doing? He said, I've been doing CrossFit. And I was like, damn it, I really want to do that, but you've got to be elite. I'd had this idea and he was like, absolutely not. Forced me to go to this gym with him and I had the complete opposite experience. I had a guy meet me at the front door, come on in, introduce me to a few people, did the workout. It was something crazy, like 5 rounds of 400-meter run, burpees, pull-ups, box jumps. It was crazy. And I'll never forget the last round. It was like burpees to finish and everyone had finished theirs. I was the last one going and I was so slow and everyone got down and did an extra set of 20 burpees. And everyone was counting with me like 20, 19, I was just like, what is this? And so at the end, everyone high-fived me. This lady hugged me. Like it was just amazing. And so obviously I signed up right then and there. Mm-hmm. The coach said to me, what are your goals? And I said, I really want to lose 20 kilos. And he said, sign up, come 5-6 days a week, get yourself a nutrition coach and you can do it. And weirdly, Michelle Bridges at the time was running her 12-week body transformation and she only did 2 or 3 a year. It was starting the following week, sign up to both of them, literally lost 20 kilos in 12 weeks. Jeez. And it wasn't even about the weight. It was about becoming a part of a community where I was getting stronger, I was getting fitter, I was making friendships with people that I would never have been exposed to. That was the kicker for me. It was, all of a sudden I was around people that were running businesses, going to seminars and like growing and just talking about different conversations. We would go out for breakfast and coffee and lunch instead of dinner and drinks, It was it just changed my life. So it was so weird. That was the beginning of, so I had to sort of get my health on, and then at the time, then I had to leave the relationship I wasn't happy in. So I finally had the confidence to do that. Nice. Then I left the job that I wasn't happy in. And when I left that job, my boss said to me, what are you going to do? And I had no idea. And he was the one that suggested, he said, you should be a PT. And I was like, what? Who would who would want to be coached by me? And he said, Nerida, you light up when you talk about burpees. Like, you should be a PT. Anyway, didn't listen to him. Bummed around for that summer. Just didn't do too much. I just did a couple of casual jobs. And then I remember driving down Derby Street one day and I saw Pink Muscle, this women's only supplement store. I knew nothing about supplements, but I thought, I'm going to go in there and just see if there's some work in here. Got chatting to the owner. I was blah, 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 just talk. And I said to her, do you have any work going? Like, I need a job. And she said, oh, you know what? I don't, but you would have been amazing. And she said, why don't you help me start a boot camp and we will coach women together. Like, and it'll be something for the business. Like, you can make the money from the boot camp, but also sort of help my business as well at the same time. And I was like, well, I don't know. I don't have my PT qualification. I don't have any gear. I don't know anyone that would do it. She said, look, I've got a couple of slam balls and some skipping ropes. I've got a list of 10 names. I'm a qualified PT. I can help you run it until you get yours. So I remember running home so excited. I had I had 10 girls' names. I wrote them all a message saying Nobby's Beach, Monday morning, 6 a.m., $10 a session. 8 of them turned up, weirdly. And that was the beginning of like my career running gyms and having Lisome. And so, yeah, like that was sort of, I suppose, the first step into me coming into a role where I was working with women, coaching women, seeing how women would light up and their confidence and their friendships and community, just how their lives expanded from coming into the gym. And it's so funny. I'd always joke to all of the girls, like I was the fitness trainer that was the least interested in fitness. Like, so much of the work that I did was focused around our community events, your personal experience. Like, so the thing that happened at that first CrossFit gym for me, in hindsight, was such a blessing because it was the thing that taught me exactly that I don't want to happen in a gym.
Yeah.
And so I then created all these systems, policies, procedures where I wanted anyone that walked through that front door for the first time to be immediately welcomed, to fit in, to belong. And I think we did a really good job of that over the course of the 10 years that I had it. But that doesn't happen naturally. You have to work at that. You know, you have to constantly create that. And that's so much of what I talk to with all the women that I work with in business. Like, people struggle in business so much, but that's because they don't lead from the front. We're so reactive when something happens. We're like, we're not leading from the front. And that was something that, you know, for the last couple of years of having the business, I really, really did, because I wanted it to be a place that was really special and unique. So, yeah, the journey of Lisome was, oh my gosh, it was such a ride. It was incredible. It was filled with so many highs and lots of lows as well. We had COVID, so many open, like, lockdowns and restrictions. Every single restriction had a massive impact on us. And to be honest, that just exhausted me. Like, I was never an anxious person in business. Not to say I haven't had hard times, but I would manage to get through them. But I became an anxious person waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, I was constantly waiting for the next thing. And
that was the first time that I met you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know that. That was the first time I met you. When Lauren was on the Remember when we were meeting up with, what was that lawyer's name? Samir, was it Samir?
Oh yes.
Anyway, that's a long story. But yeah, that's the first time. Yeah. And it's looking back on it, like, what's 2.5 years ago?
Yeah.
Fuck, it took a lot out of me as well. Like,
it was literally, it was literally 3 years ago last month.
And it's still like there's things that I'm still noticing. I'm like, fuck, there's still things there within me that it was wild.
Yeah, it is. I've so many business owners since then that I see and talk to, and they're just exhausted. They've closed down, they've sold, they've moved on. Like, emotionally, it was huge. It was huge. So I really feel for anybody who had to go through that. And like, everyone had some sort of challenge, right? Like, people were separated from their families. People weren't able to bury their loved ones. Like, people had babies in hospital without, support. Like, everyone has their story, right? The last 3 years. And, at that point before, like, I was seriously thinking about taking Lisome nationwide. Like, we were about to tee up with a franchisee who was going to come on board and help us open up more and more. And then, the lockdown happened and that just fell off the table, which is fine because, like a few years ago or even a couple of years ago, I was so angry that it broke my business. Like, I went from having a really healthy business to having not much. But in hindsight, it was the thing that put me on my path to this. So weirdly, the same month that we went into lockdown, I went through a breakup with my partner that I'd been with for 3 years. I was living in an Airbnb because I wasn't living in our house. I was told by my accountant I might go bankrupt because we didn't know how long this lockdown was going to last and we didn't know what benefits were coming. And I just remember being in this Airbnb one night and just like thinking 6 months ago, like my life, I thought I was going to marry this guy, have kids. I thought I was going to take this business all around Australia. Like life looked good and now all of a sudden it's just nothing. It's just completely flipped. And it's what I call a divine storm. It's when everything sort of comes together to push you and test you to change. Because that was the beginning of me sitting here. And it was weird that I had this lockdown, right? Because I had all this time on my hands. But it was literally the moment where I was like, why are these relationships? Why is this eluding me? What is happening where I'm not finding that I can have success in this area? And that led me to, the deepest healing on myself. Like I knew I was traumatized. I knew I'd had a really rough childhood that had scarred me, but I don't think I really realized how disconnected from myself I was. And I think I did. I remember maybe 8 months before waking up in the middle of the night and just sort of thinking to myself, is this it? Like, is this it? Is this all that there is to life? And I remember thinking, I've got to do some work on myself. Like there's something there, but I was so afraid to. And there's there's that saying, right? We only do the work because of the pain. Like we do the work because we have to. And it was the breakup and the lockdown and everything that forced me to. And you know, when I moved into this little apartment by myself. It was like my little cocoon, and I lived there for 2.5 years. And I would have read nearly a book a week. Like I literally, it was just this time of like deep surrender and growth at the same time. And it was just, it was fertile ground for me to rebuild this new person. And to really understand myself like I never had before.
Wow.
Yeah.
Journey.
Yeah, massive journey. And that was, I didn't even know I would be I had no idea back then I would coach in that field. I was just doing it because I needed to do the work. Like I needed to heal. I needed to reconnect to myself. And then it wasn't until, you know, in the business another year and just, you know, feeling the way I was feeling. And then, I decided to sell. And that was nearly a year ago. And now it's brilliant. I don't have to worry about staff. I don't have to worry about overheads. I don't have to worry about, you know, I mean, there are other challenges like working online and building a name and an audience and a brand. But the work that I do now, I just love. I love connecting with people on a deeper level. Every year I sort of sit down and ask myself what my 3 core values are. And for a couple of years, they were always the same. It was community, family and growth. But then this year that's changed. I really intentionally chose connection because I want deeper connection, family, growth and adventure. So, you know, letting go of community a bit. Like I was always the person that was organizing all the events and, you know, bringing people together. Whereas now I'm really craving deeper connection with myself, with others. And it's been an amazing ride.
And all those values are going to pay off for your clients, and that's the reason why they're attracted to you as well. Like you taking action on those things is the reasons why your audience and your clients are being attracted to the work that you're doing, especially like also the journey that you've gone through as well. That's why you're so what's the word, like adverse around like so many people, like you know, business owners. You got so much to give for business owners. You got so much to give for women that are going through the journey that you've been going through. Like there's so many avenues that you've had your feet in. Now you can start to show people how to progress through this and what it's like and how to do it as well.
Thank you for that reflection. I suppose I have. And like I've been in the business community for, you know, a decade now. And I feel like Newcastle, we're so lucky. Like I really don't think there are many other cities that have what we have. Like you know, everyone is so supportive and, I feel like I've been so lucky to have people around me, like mentors and friends that I can lean on when things have been tough. And I try to give back as much as I can as well. So I do feel like the business community in Newcastle is very generous and very connected. So it's been great to be a part of that. And it's nice now stepping into a deeper sort of sense of that connection and community with people one-on-one.
Yeah. So Lisome finished a year ago now.
Yeah,
Then
yep.
stepping into life mentoring, life
Yep.
coaching,
Yep.
whatever umbrella you want to put yourself under.
Yeah.
How's that been? What's that journey been like?
Oh, it's been so good, but it's been also so challenging. You know, I was on the phone to you just a couple of weeks ago, you know, talking about some of the challenges I was having. It has been. Do you know what's interesting? When I had Lisome, you never saw me on the social media, did you? All you saw was members.
Yeah.
Yeah, members and coaches.
Members and coaches.
Yeah.
I was so good at, you know, I would be in the gym and I would see something happening that was really cool and I'd pick up my phone and I'd point and shoot. It was never me. Like you see a lot of gyms where the owners are the face of the gym. That was never me. It was always around the girls. Like I hated getting on camera. And so I think that's been my biggest challenge, in now doing – like I can get on a podcast and talk because I know I'm good at that. But being on camera, like, you know, I even said to you today, like, oh, you guys film your podcast, don't you? Like, oh. But so
It's a hard
been
one to get by. I
yeah.
remember the first time I was doing it, there's just like this camera just sitting in front of me and I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah, it's really off-putting.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've been on camera and stuff like that throughout my career. It's not news to me. But putting myself on, you know, my social media and on my website and stuff like that and speaking and sharing my voice has been really difficult.
Yeah.
I have noticed a bit of a block there. So I'm working through it and I feel like as I work through it, the results, you know, are mirrored. But you know what? Like at the end of the day, there are some things that have been said to me and written to me that I will never forget, you know. I was never the kind of person that people would say to me like, oh my gosh, I just feel like you're inside my head, or I feel like you just really understand me, or I feel so connected to you. And it's so nice that whatever's going on within will be reflected without. So for me, I have done so much work to reconnect to myself and honor myself and know myself and understand myself and accept all the ugly parts of myself. You know, I've been so open about sharing that journey, and I think it gives people, you know, permission to do the same for themselves. Yeah. And so that's why people feel connected to me and that I understand them because and I do, you know, I've lived, you know, I hate the term narcissist because and I hate any of those sort of pop psychology labels because it's so easy to label someone and then not have to try and do the work to understand that. Yeah. But if I think about it, I've probably lived as a narcissist for a long time. I think I've been very insular because of the pain I went through as a child. So I do have to work hard to sit and be with somebody and go into their world and try to empathize and imagine what could be going on for them. Yeah. But it's a practice that I really love and I'm getting better at. But the work is incredible.
Well, before you were saying how you were struggling to like speak on cameras and stuff, you messaged me the other day and you're like, "Are you going to do like a video?" And I was like, "Fucking no." Because he's been telling me to do it for ages, and I was just like, "No."
Well, I said that to you because I had the same thing reflected to me.
Yeah.
And I'd been resisting it.
I've been thinking in my head, and I was like, I wonder if someone will ever say it to me because he hadn't said it for me for ages. Then you literally just sent through the message, and I was just like, oh, damn it.
Yes. And I only said it because I know the results that I got when I started doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
So it comes from a good place.
Yeah, I know. Don't worry. I know. But
it is hard, though.
Just
I
to
get
hear
it.
you say it too, I was like, oh,
yeah,
shit.
I get it. I totally get
Yeah.
it. It is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. We all have our insecurities.
Yeah. Me and cameras don't go.
Yeah.
Why do you reckon that is one of your biggest blockages, challenges?
Yeah, I think it's because, you know, so when I had the gym, before I had Lisome, I was quite fit and I was really lean and I felt good in my body, right? And then I had the gyms and, you know, I'm 40 now, not that age is an issue, but over the last 5 years, like the last 3 years emotionally, ruined. Like my adrenals, like I cannot even explain to you. Like I used to think all that hormone health stuff was a bit of garbage, but, you know, now how I live and how calm I am in my in general, and now when I think about what I lived like, I literally lived in a fight and flight state for 3 years. You know, I was so heightened and so on edge, and because I went through the breakup, I was devastated by that breakup. That took me 8 to 10 months to get over. Like I was literally broken, and then to have the businesses shut, all my staff, like everything. And and then go arguing with people on social media because I was very vocal about wanting to challenge the narrative, and back then it was just
Oh,
not.
yeah, I remember that.
You couldn't do it.
No.
You know, so for me, I was constantly in this, state. So, and then I wasn't exercising, and then I was drinking a lot because I was sort of numbing and escaping my pain.
Sure.
So my body shape's changed and the way I look's changed. And I think that, I don't consciously think about it. I don't think, people are going to remember me as this and that, but it's not that. It's just when I literally see myself, I'm like, oh God, I just feel like I look so old. I think I can be hard on myself in that area.
Yeah.
And when I sold Lisome, I thought to myself, great, an opportunity now to get back into your fitness, because I was coaching a lot of classes in the lead up in the last 6 months because I couldn't get staff.
Mm-hmm.
And when you coach 3 or 4 classes, the last thing you want to do is train.
Sure.
It's just you don't want to do it. So, but then when I sold, it was interesting. I just didn't want to step foot into a gym with anybody. I just would go for walks by myself every morning, because I just was like, this is the first time in nearly 10 years that I can just sleep in. I can just do what I want. I don't have to be there for anyone.
Sure.
So I'm only just getting back into the gym now and feeling good and sort of that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I think there's a little bit of judgment there and a little bit of, there is. So I'll openly admit that. And, it's another way, like another lesson for me to lean in and try to accept myself. So, yeah.
Yeah, showing up for yourself daily, like you are.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And same for me, by the way. Like, over the past 3-4 years, my body's changed as well, and like I can put it under so many reasons why. But yeah, like I get on the camera as well, and I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
I do not look like I looked like when I was 21, 22.
Yeah,
which, don't get me wrong. Yeah, exactly right. We're our own worst critic.
Yeah.
And, can be challenging to push yourself to show up.
See, I can talk all day long, like, because I'm confident that, I can speak and that I've got a voice of authority and, I know what I'm talking about. It's the face, the image stuff that I struggle with. And you're probably different. Maybe you are more confident with the way you look, because I notice you're on. No? Oh, okay. Because I was thinking about you and I was like, maybe he's okay being on camera, but his resistance is actually speaking.
Oh, actually, no, probably a bit of that.
Yeah, because I notice you on camera a lot. Yeah. You're happy to be on camera.
I ain't talking about.
But actually talking, it's where you struggle. So you're sort of the opposite, which is interesting.
So it's like the thing that gets me heaps is when I talk, because I got elbowed in the throat playing footy. And when I speak, I sound really loud in my head. Yeah. And then when I listen back on videos, I sound real soft. And then when I try to speak louder, I look like an idiot because I'm like yelling at the camera and then just so people could hear me. Yeah. And I'm just like, nah, I ain't doing this shit.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah.
But you're leaning into it more, like.
Oh yeah, I try to. For sure.
You try to, and then at the reconnections and stuff. Now you're itching at the bit to do. A bit more. Well, he's trying to fucking do every fucking thing, but even yesterday he was like, "Oh, can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this?" And I was like, "I'll just go sit outside, eh?"
Yeah, great. That's what you want.
That's by me. But no, you're pushing yourself to work on it, which is
but especially once you said it too, I was like, all right, people picking up on it.
Yeah.
So I think I tried to do a video the other day. Like, I got my camera out and tried, and I was like, nah.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so transitioning into life coaching.
Yeah.
How's because I know you expressed your challenges the last, like you said, was that 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
2 weeks
ago. Yeah.
What's been your biggest lessons so far going through your life coaching, and I guess lessons that you've given people, but also that have been reflected onto you as well? Because I've had those moments where if I'm coaching him and I'm giving him advice and I'm saying these things and I'm like, maybe you should fucking listen to this as well, Jacob. And I was like, okay, yep, copy that.
Coaching people has been my biggest portal of growth. It literally, every single time I'm with a client, I come away with something for myself every single time.
Yep.
I do the same thing. I'll literally be sitting there and I'll just have some sort of like, oh my gosh, I'm doing that same thing in this area of my life. So, I definitely have lots of those moments. I think what the biggest gift has been to see so many different people sit in front of you and the stories that they make and the meaning that they give things.
Sure.
And then how you as an outsider, you can sort of sit there and think, that doesn't mean that at all. But it's like, wow, I can see why you're thinking that. And so therefore it helps you to reflect on where you're doing that in life too.
Yeah, big time.
It's so interesting. So yeah, I think doing the work myself has been one thing, but then just having so many people sit in front of me and reflect back to me has been really interesting. Finding different ways to get through to different people. Like, you know, I'll have some clients 3 or 4 sessions in and they're just making huge leaps and bounds and they just get it and everything lands. And then you've got other clients that struggle, that it takes time and they're sort of more stuck. So that has been my biggest challenge, I think, and something I still, you know, struggle with. And I'm trying to be more flexible in the way that I approach these things so that I can understand, you know, how can I help this person to understand what I'm putting out there, you know, more deeply. So that has been huge. I think loving all of the journey, you know, the dark and the scary parts and the doubtful parts and the, you know, the lows as much as the highs. It's so easy to get hooked on the highs. Like I had a huge high last week, but the week before I had a really big low. And do you know what's so interesting? Like every other low before that, I have resisted and not sat with and not lent into. And so it's never really helped me to grow. Whereas the week before last, you know, I was having this sort of comparisonitis. I was having these doubts and these, you know, sort of concerns around my ability. And I let myself literally sit in it for 2 days. I let myself be sad. I let myself reflect. I did some journaling. I cried. I made nourishing soup for myself. I was really trying to take care of myself and really see the beauty in that. And you were great to be around too, because you said some things to me that I was sort of like, yeah, wow, I hadn't really thought about that. Like, you know, really given me some confidence that I hadn't seen in myself. And that's the beauty of this industry, isn't it? There's always people around you that you can lean on. And then as soon as I moved through that week, the next week just boom, it was crazy. I signed 3 clients in 1 week. That's the best that I've done yet. And it was just, it was huge. But I think because I let myself be supported, which I struggle with, and I let myself sit in it and let myself feel it, it was like, I don't know, I just feel like something was looking down on me and saying, yeah, go you. Like, we see that you are like loving this journey, all of it. You're seeing the beauty in it. And so we're going to gift you this just so that you know you are on the right track.
And that's what I said to you. Like, you got to remember as well, you've been doing this for 12 months. My 12 months, I had 1 client for 12 months. One client. And you've tripled that in a week. And you're like, this is challenging. I'm like, ooh, girl. You are doing so well and you have no idea. And that's the thing. Like, you know, 12 months. I'm sure it could have felt longer at sometimes. It could have been feeling like it's only been 3 months. But for what you've accomplished in 12 months. And look, sure. Did you have the springboard from Lisome and doing coaching and PT and sessions? Sure, So you could technically say you've been doing it for, you know, over 10 years. But this life coaching, it's just been 12 months. So got to give yourself some credit where credit is due, and that the amount of work that you've been doing on people. And like, you know, Tahi and I have been hearing about heaps of people that have been saying how you know, impactful and, you know, nourishing your work is as well. It's a good thing to hear back from people how supported they feel when they're doing your type of work. I've heard a reconnection many times. So
that's so nice to hear. Thank you.
Welcome.
I want people to feel like that when they're with me. Like, you know, there's that beautiful saying, like, you know, be the person that you needed when you were younger. And, you know, when I was younger, like, I really would have loved to have had that person that was that soft, you know, guiding light, unconditional love, and just listening and being present to you. And that's what I try to be every day. And I mean, I still have my bad days. I have my days where I lose my shit, and I, you know, but thankfully they're fewer and far between. But that's it's so nice to hear that people feel that around me and that actually happens. So thank you.
Oh yeah, it happens. It's not just one person. It happens all the time, especially because like we've had some of your clients come to our reconnection. We even had one gentleman that you knew yesterday come. So it happens frequently, and it's
great guy, by the way. when he first got there, he just like fitted straight in. He didn't know anyone. He just like jumped in with everything, got straight into like
so good.
everything, like just dived straight into it.
And
It was so good.
so funny because I had no idea he was following my work. I didn't know he was interested.
It's funny when you don't know like people who follow you,
no
and then they
idea.
come out of the woodworks. And you're just like, oh shit.
He literally wrote to me and said, I've been watching your journey. It's been amazing. Like, because of you, I went to Reconnection. And I'm like, oh my God. Like,
So
just
good.
goes to show how you just don't know these people that are. And I mean, I try to get everyone I know to come to this thing because I believe in the work that you guys do so much. And, you know, I get really frustrated with the people that won't come. Like, they're not ready.
Oh, don't worry.
Yeah. It's like, I really just, and I don't think people realize, like, I feel like saying to people, you don't realize how lucky we are to have something like this in Newcastle. Like, it's down the road and it's on every month. Like, yeah. But anyway, what you guys are creating is amazing. So I feel very lucky to have found you. And yeah, I just want all of my clients to come and see you.
Just be like, before you start with me, you have to do this.
This is a prerequisite.
Yeah.
That's your initiation.
We'll give a discount.
Yeah.
Know that.
Get discounted off your ticket if you go do it.
Yes, I love that. I love
You
that.
can use that discount money on us. Pay you more.
I love that. It's all working together.
Yeah, so it should be there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We
Exactly.
should all be working together. I
Yeah,
reckon.
definitely.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, that's good.
The you've like we said, can be very confronting this work, especially it's what I found, because obviously I have the comparison with Lauren doing the sanctuary and me doing this. Like, I've found challenges are obviously different, but you're by yourself on this, so it's completely on you.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
Whereas if you're running a business, you have so many other things that you can say. Oh, it's because of this. It's because of this. It's because of the weather. It's because of school holidays or this or this. But if you're doing this business by yourself, it's like no, it's completely on you.
Yeah.
How you show up.
Yeah.
How you show up is the way.
Yeah.
Like, we noticed it over the last weekend just gone. It was probably one of our quieter ones, not massively quiet, but it was quieter.
Yeah.
Just because me and him were doing the renovations for the sanctuary for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then me and him had good old bit of
Good old
stomach bug.
I was like, how do I word this?
I
good?
didn't want to say it how I normally say it.
I was like, oh, no, don't say that.
For a week and a half. So there was like 3.5 weeks where I wasn't showing up here.
Yeah.
And thankfully I had 1 week to show up for the reconnections and it paid off. But the challenges are completely on you and how you show up, and I'm sure you're noticing that too.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I had a really good look at myself maybe 3 months ago, and it was really funny. I had, prepaid for someone to do my website. I'd prepaid for someone to do, 20 hours of social media. I'd prepaid for all this stuff, but hadn't actually followed through on any of it because it required me sending photos, showing up, doing videos. Like, and it really was interesting because I noticed I love writing. I love speaking on something like this. There are so many things that I love doing, but then so many areas that I'm blocked in. And, it was interesting. I noticed it was like there are all these people that I follow their content, love their content. But it was like one day I just really noticed, I was like, wow, she puts herself on camera all the time, no matter what. And all of a sudden it hit me. I was like, everyone that you like, their face.
Yeah.
People don't really know my face because I rarely get on there. So I just sort of did the whole just point and shoot and don't look at it. Just get it up and just don't look at it. So all my videos, I just don't look at them. I post them and then I get them out. If I don't see them.
I wish I could do that.
I'll help you.
I'd say some dumb shit if I just posted like.
But do you know what the funny thing is?
It and then,
you know what the funny thing is? I feel like people are way less critical than we think they are and more forgiving.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone else criticizes us as much as we do.
The amount of people that have messaged me and said, wear something weird. You even did it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's funny.
You just did it out now. You was like, wear something. Don't wear anything. Oh, what did you say? Make sure you don't say anything weird. I had so many people message me from that too. I was just like, and then
it's a catchphrase.
That was funny. Yeah.
Fucking hilarious. Yeah. It's top 10 moments of 2023. Probably top 3 to be honest.
So good.
There's more coming, don't worry.
Yeah. Hey, well, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, way you show up is the way that you're going to get your results 100%.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, so and I'm seeing that now. Like, you know, they say that your results right now are a reflection of the work that you did 3 months ago. And it is. It's literally 3 months ago when I first started committing to like posting the videos, talking, because I'd be in sessions like this and I'd be talking and I'd be thinking, far out, I'm so on the money here. Like, and my clients having all these epiphanies. Like, you know, the look that they give you when they're like, they sort of, their eyes go up and to the left and they're sort of like processing and they're like, oh my God. And they're having these little epiphanies and they're just like, So I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm fucking good at what I'm doing. Like, I'm good at this. And I'd sit there and I'd literally think to myself, when I finish this Zoom call, I'm going to get on my Instagram and talk about it. And then I'd get on my Instagram and I'd be like,
Oh man, it's so funny we go through the same shit because I had my call last week too and I was so good and I got off and I was like, once I get off here, in my head I was like, I'm going to do this, I got this. Got off the call and I just sat there and I was like, fuck.
and then a friend said to me, why don't you just record your Zoom calls, send them to someone and get them, you know, chopped up and get someone to just create content from them. So haven't done that yet, but that's my next plan. But it's true. It's so interesting, isn't it? You know, and do you know what human design you are? Do you know what your blueprint is? Well, I'm a manifesting generator, which I am meant to respond. So really interestingly, where I always thought I created Lisome. I always thought I was the one that did this. But when I look back, no, I responded to every single part of it. You know, my boss said to me, you should be a PT. Erin said to me, you should start a boot camp. When I ran the boot camp, everyone said, you should start a gym. People said it should be women's only. I responded every step of the way. I did not initiate. And so interestingly, when I initiate without being responded to, it actually usually goes pear-shaped. You know, so that's really interesting that everything in my life, same thing with this coaching. I just started off sharing podcasts and videos and stories about this work that I was interested in personally. And people would say, you're a coach. Oh, you should do this. So weirdly, I am meant to respond. So now I know that like this form where you're asking me a question or a client's asking me a question, when I can respond is where I show up best. I'm not meant to initiate.
You should be the Polaris chef.
Well, very funny.
I'm trying.
Look, I am going to say this kitchen does need a little bit of work.
Hey, I'm giving you the tools, man.
I'm helping you out, just trying to help you out.
Oh, it's so good.
I do love to cook.
If you watch that back, it took me like 3 seconds to process it. I was like, chef. What the fuck do you mean?
But she's responding, man.
I was like,
She's
respond.
responding. I'm with you. Well, I did bring snacks.
Yeah, you did. You did. When I walked in, you're like, there's food. I was like, there's food? So for people, like, where do you think people should start? Like, when if they're like with you, like, what are they like? When's a good point for them to feel they need to move in with you? Like, do they feel like that's been going through something pretty bad, or just think if you feel like you need to do something with your life, is that a good point?
Yeah. Do you know what's interesting? I tend to get a lot of people contacting me when they're in their pain, like when they're in their dark night of the soul, when they're moving through something really heavy. You know, and look, people are only ready when they're ready, but I do see a lot of people that are sort of living this in the grey zone. You know, things aren't amazing, but they're also not that bad yet. But they always will. They get there. It's a matter of time. And I really believe it's either your partner leaving you or your children having something going wrong with one of the kids. You know, I'm working with this family right now where, you know, they're very wealthy and on paper, like you would know them on social media, they're very well known and they seem like they have it all together. Like they go on family trips constantly. They're in Europe, America. You would look at them and think that they live the high life. And they came to me and they're like, we need you to start seeing our daughters because they're really struggling. And I was like, okay, knowing enough about this work, it's always from the parents. So I said to the parents, I said, well, you know, I can see them, but I really need to be seeing you too. They're like, no, we're fine. We don't need it. And it's like, okay. So then I start working, you know, with their kids. And then over a couple of months, it's very obvious that they're struggling because they live with absent parents. Like they're not being parented by their parents. They're being parented by their nannies. And so they are like, of course, they're experiencing low self-worth, you know, a sense of I don't matter, a sense of I'm not understood or I'm not loved by anyone that's important to me. that's what's happening for them, right?
Yeah.
So then I have to try to go back to the parents and try to engage them, and they're really resistant to it.
Yeah.
And I know it's only a matter of time before the next 6 months, 12 months, couple of years, you know, something bad will happen and, you know, to wake them up. And I don't know when that is. But, you know, in so much of the work that I see, you know, things have to get bad before people do the work. But I do encourage people, like, you know what it's like. You'll have a glimmer, something will resonate. You'll be listening to somebody, or I have a rule of threes, right? If you see something 3 times or hear of something 3 times, you're meant to do it. So I heard of the reconnection 3 times. I was like, oh, what's this reconnection? And then all of a sudden I was like, boom, I'm in. So I'm a big believer in, you know, when you hear that whisper, lean into it, because the sooner you do it, the better life gets. But, you know, I think if people are listening to this and any of this resonates, that's a sign you are meant to come and see me. You're meant to work with me, because we're all led to the guides that we need, right? You know, I find it so interesting. Like, you know, I have a bunch of girlfriends and we're all into this sort of stuff, right? And someone will share a podcast through the group and it will resonate with like 2 or 3 and it won't resonate with, like, I'll listen. Vicky at the moment, she's really loving this particular person. And I'm like, oh, I've got to listen to her. None of her stuff is resonating with me. I actually find her irritating to listen to. And then I'll send her stuff and I'm like, oh my God, this is so good. And she's like, oh, you know, it's so interesting. And obviously the people that I'm really resonating with, I'm meant to, because there's a message in it for me and the vice versa for her. So, you know, whoever it is, like if you're loving something, lean into that, because that's where the gold is. That's where, you know, your growth is.
That's what we always say at our events. I've like the amount of people I've transferred to him, because I'm just like, I do not align to like what you're calling to at the moment, but I guarantee Tahi over here definitely will. Like it just gets to a point where it's just like, you're not meant for me, but you're definitely meant for him, or you know, vice versa. If I had someone, I'm like, Nerida, this is Nerida's ball game right here. I think if you're in that coaching space, that ego needs to be put to the side and know that you know you got to make sure that they're aligned to what you're doing and what you're working with. It's not about how many clients you can have, it's about how many aligned people that you can have next to you.
And I know, like, there was a client early on in my journey where I thought her resistance was really just, she was resisting. Like, I just thought it was resistance because whatever. So I convinced her. Like, and then it ended up being a nightmare. Like, I ended up having to refund her money and, you know, she was really good about it. But it was just, it was such a lesson that I was like, I'm never doing that again. I'm never going to sit and convince and pander to someone if they're not ready. Like, and now I actually get annoyed when I think about, you know, the fact what I give to people and how much I offer them and what they get. I'm like, you have no idea how lucky you are that I only charge this much.
Oh, mate.
Because in another 12 months, you won't even be able to talk to me.
No.
Like I won't even be reachable.
No, like I won't obviously say your prices. That's for conversations in private. But when we had that conversation 2 weeks ago, I was like, mate, your clients are so fucking lucky. Like, to be able to be paying that and getting that. Like, and you know, you'll feel called to when your prices have to go up. No one can force you to do that. But I was saying to you, I was just like, fucking bump those prices, girl.
Yes.
That's like, like you said, you're so that people are lucky to be able to invest into you for that amount, for sure.
And it's so funny, you know, like people use that analogy because I only work with people that pay up front for their program. I don't do week to week anymore. It doesn't work for me. I want to work with people who are really ready and like committed. And you're only doing that committed if you're ready to, you know, spend the money. And, you know, then you get the people that are like, oh, I don't know if I can afford it. It's like, well, what was the last thing that you didn't think you could afford that you found money for? You bought that car? You managed to find money for that. You bought that house? Managed to find money for that. That holiday? You managed to find money for that. If you are ready and if you see the value, like I've got a client right now who, you know, I know that they're quite wealthy. I know that they've got money, but yet they're resisting spending the money on working on a couple's container with me for 3 months and yet their family's falling apart. And I'm like, you obviously value the nice cars and the property and the money in the bank more than you value your kids.
Well, a lot of people don't value themselves. They value like for us, it's like
materials.
young people, they like the going out drinking, partying, like they would rather spend the $200 there and then come and do a $200 day kind of thing.
Yes.
And that's probably like the same thing with you.
Yeah.
Like people would rather just go spend
Yeah.
things that are going to be instant,
Yeah.
not things that are going to take time.
And
So,
and be hard.
yeah, it'd be hard. Yeah, people would want
Yeah.
everything easy.
Well,
Yeah.
people value damage, they value sabotage, they
Yeah.
value all
Yeah.
these things.
That's
like,
what I. So
Yeah.
when I did my core values with him, he's like, "What are your values?" And then
Yeah.
he's like, "I just said this," and he's like, "No, what are your proper values?"
Yeah.
And then when I sat down, and I was like, "Gambling,
Yeah.
partying,
Yeah.
drugs,
Yeah.
like that." And then when he made me look at it, I was just like, "Shit, that's bad."
Yeah, I had a client like 12 months ago. Yep, fucking in, ready to rock and roll, da 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 da. And then a day went by when he was supposed to send his deposit, and I was like, "What's going on?" "Oh, fuck, yeah, spent it on 2 bags." I'm like, beep beep beep. I'm like, no way. And like I'm working with him now, and we've made a lot of progress with him. But at that time, I was just
Yeah.
like, "Nah, man, like
He's
I'm
not
not
ready.
I'm not investing into that.
Yeah.
No way."
And that's a funny thing, right? Like, you know, we just want to avoid. Like, and I
Yeah.
did it for a long time too. I avoided, you know, I get it. But it's like, don't tell me, like, what I find frustrating is, you know, I love what you've just said there. Like, I thought my values were this, but then actually when I look at the way I was spending my time, you know, I get people all the time come to me and they say, my values are my family. And yet they're working 80 hours a week. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
no, your values are not your family because you never see them.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're actually not valuing your family because you don't see them. So therefore that's on its way to being broken if you don't turn around and change this very soon. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you need to be present. You need to spend time. You need to be, you know, spending time on all the things that you say you value every week.
Well, I don't think people understand what values are. Like, I think they just think it's like,
Yeah.
hey, saying family. I think I said family, and I don't say
Yeah.
my family at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
And then when you actually break it down, it's like the things that you are. It's like the things you do every day. That is what you're valuing to do
Yeah.
every day. So if you sit them down and have a look at them, and they're bad. Well, not bad, but like they're just not really where you want to be. Then that's how
Yeah.
you change them. So.
And that's why people feel so lost and stuck is because we're living out of alignment with our values. At the end of the day, that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's why we are feeling so, like we feel mostly pretty good these days because we're living in alignment with our values,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
I cried when I wrote my values down.
I bet.
Because then I was like a realization. I was like, bags is number 1. Drinking was number 2.
Yeah.
Sabotage number 3. Like there's like so much bad stuff that I was doing to myself, and I was just like, then when he showed me the good things you can be doing to yourself, and I was like, fuck.
I also think that you need to give compassion to that. Like,
Yeah.
I think that, you know, you need to look at the little boy that was like, you know, running from his pain, you know, drowning in not knowing how to move forward.
Yep.
You just needed that one person to come into your life
Yeah.
that could hold you lovingly without that judgment
Yeah.
and just sort of say, there is another way.
Yeah.
You
Well, I
know?
think the way I look at it now is like anything bad that I once thought was trauma, it's like now it's like a blessing. Like it's like I went through all that bad stuff, like the breakups, the partying and everything, to be able to where I am now, to realize that.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of say to people as well, like when I always get a lot of guys be like, "Oh, fuck her," like when they break up with someone,
Yeah.
and they're like, "I'm over her," and I'm like, "You're not over her. Because you were, you would be saying fuck her. You'd be like saying thank you. You know what I mean?" And that's how I am with my stuff. Is like say thank you for the things that I did do to get the gratitude, like for myself. So
I love that so much. You've nailed it.
yeah,
You're not over her because if you weren't, you wouldn't be saying fuck you.
100%.
Yeah.
There's a post in that.
Yeah.
There's a face-to-face video there, baby.
And it's got to be in me fucking work clothes. Look at my
That's
best.
really
baby.
good.
Bit of
Yeah,
dirt on
that's
the
that's
face.
really good. Yeah,
Yeah.
you've nailed that.
Yeah. I
And
think so.
you know, and one of the things that I do in the work that I do, and I'm sure you guys do, is you know, like trying to listen to what's being really said under what's being said.
Yeah,
You know,
okay.
when you know, so much of what people say is really just their pain in disguise, you know.
Yeah.
But we're unskilled. Like we're not skilled in expressing
No.
what's really going on for us. I see it in couples or in people all the time. I even do it myself time to time. You know, we project.
Yeah.
You know, we make someone else responsible for our uncomfortable feelings rather than actually sitting with it and asking ourselves, how am I feeling right now? Like, how can I share this with the person in front of me so they actually can get an understanding on where I'm at?
Yeah.
You know, what would it be like if we learnt how to communicate that way?
Yeah.
You know, this happening right now is I'm noticing I'm feeling really confused. I'm feeling really lost. I'm feeling really scared. You know, what would that do to people to connect them? You know, we innately want to take care of each other. We innately want to look out for each other and love each other. But, you know, our unskillful habits and way of being and living is just what gets in the way of that.
Yeah.
And that's some of my, you know, like the deepest work that I do is like helping people to rephrase, you know, their language so that they can show up, you know, in a way that is helping every single point of conflict, confusion, misunderstanding is always an opportunity for deeper connection every single time.
Yeah.
It's just we don't know how to go about bringing that. So no wonder we avoid conflict. No wonder we run from that because we don't know how to handle it well.
Yeah. That's true.
Never been shown how to.
Yeah. Like we haven't been modeled it. You know, most of our parents, you know.
Well, it's one of the biggest lessons not lessons. One of the biggest reoccurring themes I've seen within doing work with the men for years is like they just don't know how to love. Like, you know, like love is something that if you haven't been shown to, like shown what love is, not conditional love, like unconditional love. If you've never felt that or been shown what that is, then how do you expect to just create a relationship full of that, you know? So, finding that for yourself and going on that journey, that's a really powerful piece that a man can go through. It's something that I had to go through because I didn't know what it was. I thought love was a certain thing, and then I had to break down my walls and my barriers, and I was just like, right.
Yeah, I love your story.
Yeah. Everyone's, I won't say it again, don't worry.
Oh, man. I just got tree a day.
That's like Ash and me every time. I would have to tell my story, I think. Poor Ash.
It was funny. Yes, on, I think it was, Saturday. He was about to tell his story, and he's like, oh, Tahi could probably say this to himself. And he started speaking, and I just had my head in the air, and I started speaking it. And I looked at Acacia, and Acacia's laughing at me. She's like, I was like, I've heard this so many times. It's our story now. It is our story.
It's our story.
I've lived it with him.
Yeah, every time I say it, I'm like,
Dad left both of us.
Dad left both of us. Yeah, fuck you, Dad.
Fucking prick. He lives at Bullaroo when he say hello. Fucking dog. That's all right. We got my dad, bro.
Yeah. What's up,
we got Big Mama.
Yeah. And this is the thing, and I think what's been so interesting is I've worked with women for 10 years, right? So I know women inside out. Like, you know, I know women. I know how they operate. I know how they think. I know how they connect. I know how they, you know, how to create safety. Like I've spent so long. But this last 12 months working more with men, I actually have more male clients now than I do women.
I was just about to say, do you do something?
I actually do. I work with a lot of men in dating, in relationships, and in business. Yeah. And it's been such a gift, and it's been so interesting to see them and like struggle, like, and you would see it, like, you know, I think women have this perception that, you know, men have all the power and have all, and it's not the case at all. I see so many men struggle with people pleasing tendencies and low self-worth, and struggle with communication and setting boundaries, and I
think like men communicating their feelings, from my experience, is like when you do express the bad things you go through, it doesn't get reciprocated very well from the female. Yeah. So like then when we do open up, they just feel like fuck. Yeah. That's why like a lot of lying happens. It's like it's easier to communicate this way because you get a better response than when you do the like a vulnerable way. Yeah. Like you kind of get hit back at you, I guess. Yeah, it's like Brene Brown talks about the white horse, like the knight in shining armor. Like she, you know, she tells a story about how she was all about vulnerability and shame, and she was signing these books for this, you know, family and mum and daughter, and then dad's there, and he's saying, you know, it's so interesting. I see you talking a lot about women and their shame, but what about men? And I don't remember what she says, but he says, no. My wife and my daughter would rather see me fall on my horse, fall on my sword, than to ever see me let emotion go. Like they are the ones that hold me to the highest, you know, they're the ones that are most afraid of that. And that's when she started, diving into that sort of work with men. And it's true, like and what we need to do is, this is the thing. We don't do this work to learn how to communicate so that we get a certain response. We have to all. I could sit here and tell you. I could tell you something, a story. I could tell 10 people the same story, and I would get 4 or 5 different responses. Yeah. And that is not a reflection of me. It's a reflection on you. Yeah. I could say a really, triggering statement
and every one of you will respond differently. So
Yeah.
we need to understand that when we are communicating in relationship, it's hard because that's our intimate partner. There's more on the line. I get it.
Yeah.
But we need to know and trust that this work is worth doing no matter how that person responds. And if that person is unable to meet us where we want to be met, that's a reflection of them,
Yeah.
not that we shouldn't go there.
Oh,
Yeah,
mate,
definitely.
that is Lauren's go-to, by the way. She'll express something. I shouldn't be saying this, but fuck it, whatever.
She doesn't listen. So fuck her.
That's true.
She doesn't listen.
We're
Fucking listen and then we'll stop.
we're an hour in, there's no chance. She'll say something and I'll be like, oh, I'll either go like, fuck, righto, like, or like, yeah, whatever, da-da-da-da-da. And she can see that I get triggered by it. And this is what she says while I'm triggered. And she goes, and that's on you, by the way, being triggered, that's on you. And I was like,
Okay.
I know. I don't need that, but it's true. Like, it
Yeah.
is true.
Yeah.
In the moment, obviously, I'm just like, fucking say it again. Like,
That's why people say no offense.
yeah.
No
but
offense, but
But
Yeah.
you suck.
she doesn't say that. Offense intended.
But you know what I find so interesting, and I've really been noticing this, and I'm gonna do a post or something around it. But you know, I find it so interesting. People either give their partners less sort of compassion and space than they do their kids, or vice versa. You know, I'm guessing Lauren would never sit there and speak like that to any of your kids. That's on you if you're triggered.
Yeah, she does actually.
No, I would agree with you, Nerida, but oh no, she says that. But the difference with that is that she will say that, yeah, of course, yep, it's you know, on you, da 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 da. But the kids are a direct reflection of her, right? They're conditioned by Lauren, so then she can say, okay, she's responding that way, but that's because of me. Does that make sense?
No, I'm lost.
So
Sorry.
Alia is responding in a way, and that's on Alia that she's responding that way. But she's responding that way because she's
learnt.
conditioned by Lauren. She's learned off Lauren to respond that way.
Yeah.
So then Lauren can go, okay, I can work on that myself. That's coming from
Yeah.
a place of me.
Yeah.
Whereas with me, it's completely different. Say,
Yeah.
that's on you, work on it. Yeah.
Okay.
Sleep in the doghouse. No.
Yeah.
You're outside.
But yeah,
You're
no.
banded.
But that's a you know, a self-awareness piece, and she's priding herself on that. And it's amazing to see that she's going, you know, and she teaches me that as well. She, you know, she can say, oh, you know, the reason they're acting that way is because of you, and I go, no, that doesn't make sense. And she explains it through me and everything like that, and I go, okay, I can see that, and then I can create the space for Alia and Luca to be like, hey, Daddy didn't mean to respond that way. And the way that we just handled that, yes, it triggered me, but that's something that Daddy needs to work on, and we can work on it together. Whereas instead of just going off at the kids and then just that's it, yeah, she's learning. She's teaching me a lot of things, which I'm super, super proud of.
Yeah, that's amazing. But what? How does that feel to be left like? How does that feel to be spoken to like that's on you? Does that feel like a moment of connection?
In the moment, fuck no.
Yeah.
But we don't just leave it at that.
Yeah.
So she'll say, that's on you, right?
Yeah.
Like, you need to focus on that. And then once I have calmed down, then we connect and
So I think
have
that's a
conversation
good,
about
like,
it.
just hearing that from my perspective is like, that's probably what you want in a relationship, I guess, is like someone to pull you up on the shit that like what you're saying.
Well,
and then be able to talk through it a bit
I've got
better.
a different perspective on that.
Here we go.
Here we go. this
Please
is good.
challenge Lauren.
Yeah.
Yes. Please challenge her.
I'm about like I find it really interesting this calling out culture.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like for some reason it doesn't sit well with me. What I would love to see is how can we create more curiosity? Like, can we create a space where I've got my story, my whatever I think is going on, whatever's alive within me, like this is right, this is wrong, you're wrong, I'm right, whatever it is, you know, whatever is going on. And I'm going to hold that and that's alive within me, right? That's my, you know, experience. So that makes sense that I'm sitting here and that's really living in me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I take a moment to sort of pause and then go into your experience and try to get curious about what's going on for you while leaving my experience at the door, and then really try to give compassion and understanding and empathy so that we're not so adversarial, so that we're both honouring, you know, at both of our experiences, because you've got your story, you've got your life, which is the lens that you look at this through, and vice versa for me too. And then we find a way to come to mutual understanding where it's like, you know, I'm trying to emotionally attune to you, right? Like I'm trying to go, okay, I'm guessing you're probably feeling this, this, and this. That makes sense. I get it. And then, trying to find a way to like have that mutual understanding rather than one person has to take all of the blame and work on themselves.
Yeah.
I just have a different take on it because
I can see where you're coming from too. But I think like when she's saying like to go work on yourself as well, so it's not like she's just not working on herself.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
Like as long as like if you're saying that to your partner and
Yeah.
you're not doing anything for yourself,
Yeah.
then it's kind of like contradictory.
yeah,
But if like he's obviously working on himself, then she's
Of
working on
course,
herself
yeah.
as well. So I reckon if it's coming from that way, where they're
Yeah.
both working on themselves, saying if you could work on this a bit better.
do you get to say the same to her every now and then?
He wants to, but he just haven't got the
There we
confidence yet.
go. That
No, so
We're building it.
I will.
We're building.
I really hope she doesn't listen to this now because
No, you're in trouble.
I'm scared.
You're in trouble.
I ain't scared of
better-
him.
I'm gonna chop this and send it to her.
I ain't scared of him, man. I've
She
been her in a
better not listen
I've
to
been her
this.
in an argument once.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm just curious.
No,
like, yeah,
so-
do you have the ability to do the same back?
For many years, no.
Yeah.
Recently, yes.
There we go.
Because
Yeah.
I have been understanding myself a lot better.
Great.
And I can go, hang on.
Yeah.
I do see where you're coming from. And yes, I need to do work on it. But like you said, two sides to this. And this is where I'm coming from. And you can openly express it. But
Yeah.
the only reason why, I shouldn't say the only reason, one of the reasons why is because she has seen me at the lowest of lows, whereas I was a complete piece of shit, gambling, drugs, alcohol, staying out, not coming home. Even when Ali was born, still doing that,
Yeah.
lying, all of these things.
Yeah.
And now we're getting to a place where I've completely worked through that, completely open, honest. We've worked through all of it, but those pieces can still come out to play. But we
Yeah.
work through it and we talk through it. And
Yeah.
and that's the thing. That's where I'm not fully reactive at it because I can go,
But
I can,
Okay.
I am the one.
Got a question.
I've got
Yeah,
another one.
Yeah, yeah.
Heads up.
I can be
Pick me,
I can,
pick me.
I can be the main adversary of the reasonings why that was happening. So I need to
Yeah.
take ownership over that as well.
Totally.
Right? Like
Yeah.
I can't just say, well, I've worked through all of this, so that's on you to work. It was like, hang on, no. There was many years of me doing that. I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Then we talk, yeah.
Yeah, got it.
Now hit me
Yeah.
with the next one. So I
Okay,
can
so
get
the
more
next
trouble.
one is the next little piece I'm going to bring up.
Oh no.
There has to be some sort of pain in her too that's unresolved. If she chose to be in a relationship with someone who was showing up that way.
As in
Maybe she wants to go out and party.
yeah.
No. What I mean is like, well, I suppose, I'm not trying to throw her under the bus. What I'm trying to do is like one thing I believe about relationships is there needs to be a reciprocity. So what goes for one should go for the other. So,
Is that what reciprocity means,
Yes,
by the way? Okay.
that's what it
I was like,
means.
I knew that.
Shut your lips.
I love how you're both like nodding your head. Yep.
Yeah, baby.
Yes, totally.
Reciprocity.
I can't even say that word.
More than 4 syllables.
You made that up.
Reciprocity. So it means it goes around both ways.
Yes.
And so
exactly the definition
the
I had.
biggest relationship breakdowns that I see is where that's not happening. There's a set of rules for one side, a set of rules for another, which is always going to eventually lead to disconnect and disharmony.
Yeah.
So we take that aside, right? Because then I'm sort of like, well, for as much of your relationship, whenever there are issues, they can't all be yours. Like she has to have ownership on some.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
takes ownership over so much.
Yeah.
So much. But she will also in those situations say, hey, you're reacting that way.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you need to find out
Yeah.
why you're reacting like
Yeah.
that. So that's on you for your
Yeah.
reaction.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's a lot of the time that's coming from, let's just say, for example, Alia storms off with emotions.
Yeah.
And she just storms off into the room.
Yeah.
And I go, for fuck's sake, like this kid.
Yeah.
And she'll go, hey, look at the way you're reacting.
Yeah.
You need to look at why you're reacting like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I can go, okay, yep, okay. And then I go have a chat about it.
Yeah.
Whereas it's not like Lauren and I will have a conversation and she just goes, hey, well, that's on you, so go
Yeah.
figure it out.
Yeah.
It's not like that.
Yeah,
it's
it's
more
not like
it's
that.
more an openness piece
Yes.
of being
Yeah.
she is
An invitation.
an invitation, yeah, and
Yeah.
she is my biggest awareness piece
Yeah.
ever. Like
Yeah.
she will reflect all of this onto me, which is great, and it allows me to sit with it
Yeah.
and go through it as well.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
very, very grateful for it. And I'm proud of myself as well that I'm able to say, hey, well,
Get a set of balls
Oh my
back.
God.
look
it's
at the way you're
biggest-
reacting, hey?
Yeah.
What about that? How's that feel? Fucking 5 years of this shit. How's that feel?
You are letting a lot of emotion out in the last few days.
I know.
I like it. Keep it going.
That's it.
Have you seen that the video where he's just like,
you guys get to go home. I'm going to go home and have dinner next to it.
You can come to mine, bro. I was like the other day, I said to Lauren, I was like, we're going to go out for his birthday. We're going to party. She just goes, well, he won't be, he has to ring me to come home. And I was like, well, guess what, Lauren? I have a spare bed.
Hilarious.
It's so funny, yeah.
Oh, it's just interesting. I love like listening to people's relationships and how they, interact, behind the scenes, especially people like you where you're both doing the work.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How would you get like a couple
Yep.
nowadays like to communicate better? So like for me, I never used to be a very good communicator and I never knew how to.
Yep.
So I think I've only just found out now being single that I feel like I know how to communicate a lot better. So like if you are in a relationship and you feel like the communication is a bit not there, what would they do?
Which is so common.
To have that conversation.
First of all, like so many people have this stigma around couples therapy that, it must mean something really bad. Like if we're getting support here, I want to encourage you to understand we all struggle with this. Like there is so many of us struggle because it's, relationships are so important to us. Like they're the most important thing and they're also our most triggering place. That person that we're with is the one triggering us the most. So the first thing I want to do is just really, really offer you, so much compassion and just I want people to know that this is so common. The first thing I do is I don't work with couples together.
Yeah.
And that's really different. A lot of couples therapy is you go in together. The way I work is I will have a couple come to me and because you think about it, right? If you're here and seeing me and your partner's here, you're being triggered by me and you're being triggered by her and you're also not feeling fully safe to share because you're sort of trying to protect her as well. Yeah. Same goes for her. She's being triggered by you, she's being triggered by me and she's also trying to protect you or throw you under the bus, whatever's going on. So the way I work is I seek in each part of the couple individually. So you'll come to me and you will talk and like I'll listen to you like emote and share. And after only a couple of minutes, I can very quickly paint a picture of what your beliefs are, what your limitations are, what your subconscious sort of blocks are. So then I can then help you to see those and help support you to go back and work on the relationship. And then she will come in, I will listen to her and then I will support her to go back. And so really I'm just a witness to both of you individually, giving you the tools to go back and take those tools back to the relationship so you actually do the work on the relationship together. I'm helping you to heal your childhood wounds and the same as your partner. So that's what's so different about working with me than it is working with a therapist. Now, what I also do, I'm a big believer, so there's insight and awareness, right, which is sort of like talk therapy. It's like you come, you talk, you listen. There are all these sort of, ideas and sort of concepts that I'm giving to you that you're sort of listening to. Then there's integration, which you guys are obviously deeply embedded in. So integration means the showing up, the doing, the actual embodiment of it, right? So with my sessions, at the end of every session, I send you a document and it has a whole heap of things for you to work on away from session, like because you're only with me for an hour a fortnight. So there's all this stuff for you to go away and integrate in between those two sessions, your next session. And that's the thing that I find is the missing piece with talk therapy. People come for 1 hour a month and then they go away and they just have they don't have any support to integrate this work. We need to be supporting people in their everyday lives to heal, to change, to grow, to overcome. So that's one of the biggest.
So your clients can reach out to you as long as doesn't have to be within that.
Yeah,
so after that they come and see you, they can go home. Say the next few days they can message you and stuff.
Nice. So I have an app called Voxer. It's like a walkie-talkie app, and it's where I house all my clients. So my clients have access to me. I leave myself time every day to check in on them, and it's weird. Like I might hear nothing from clients for a couple of days, and then all of a sudden it's like the full moon. Everyone's on there like this is happening, that's happening. And so what's really beautiful about that is I don't know if you've ever been in that position where you've really been struggling and you just wanted to talk to someone right then and there and you go and book a therapy appointment, but then you can't get in for 3 weeks. And then all of a sudden that 3 weeks rolls around and you're sort of like, oh, I'm sort of okay. I don't know what I was talking about. I feel like this support that I offer is it's so unique in you can actually, if you're having an argument with your partner and you're about to blow your lid or something's happened, you can sort of check in with me and say, Nez, this is what's happening, this is what I'm struggling with. And I can just shoot back. And it could be 5 minutes and it's done and you're sort of like, oh, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Or it could be 50 minutes and I'm working you through something. But either way, it's the thing that's really moving the needle and helping people to really show up, like change a lot in the course of 6 months.
Yeah, he's my therapist.
Um,
And I'm his therapist.
Yes.
the amount of times he always whinges to people that I call him too much, but then when I don't call him, he's like, he'll ring me and be
He
like,
whinges.
why haven't you called me? I don't know,
Like
man.
literally, what, like 4 or 5 times a day, it's a phone call.
Yeah,
And-
yeah.
I hate
that's
I'm
cute.
not a big texter.
Yeah.
I'd rather
Yeah,
just get the
I'm
conversation
same.
over
or
and
I'm
done
a
with.
voice memo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
love a
you are a
voice
voice
memo.
memo.
I
I try to
am.
do that, and then I forget what I'm talking about or what the other person's for.
Yes.
So I just like sit through a message. And I'm like, otherwise you'd get like a voice memo every it'd be like 5 seconds. Be like
Yeah.
answering, go back, answer the next
Yes.
question.
Yeah, it's like 5 times a day, and like you said, it goes with that one day, and I'm like, with the 5
going on?
times, yeah, 5 times a day, I'm like, oh, here we go, another one, and then the day goes by, and I'm like, where is he?
Where is he? Where's my
What's
friend?
going on?
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing that you guys have, like that friendship and that bond. Like in years to come, you'll look back on this time like the golden years. Like I know where you are because I've been there. And when you're building something, like you're building a business, you're doing it with someone you love, you're so aligned in so many ways and you have so much fun together. Like it's something most people never get to experience. Like
Yeah.
most people never do. So I'm sure you know how
I
special
hope people
it
get
is.
to experience our arguments because they're pretty good. We've had a big argument in Byron
Oh,
Bay.
you had a big fight.
Oh yeah, it was on the way home on the ride.
Oh yeah.
How did you repair from that? Were you able to
we
repair
We
it?
repaired it on the spot.
within
Oh,
30,
wow.
30
Yeah.
seconds?
Wow,
It was
that's
fucking.
impressive.
Our emotions went so.
He was like going off of me because
I
obviously
went off.
he's in pain, like, and he completely warranted for what he said, and I just snapped back. So I was like, 3 days of being in a car by myself, food poisoning, like all of these things. I said, fuck you, and I fucking went off at him, and then it was silent for 10 seconds, and I was filling up his water bottles, and he goes, "Are you mad at me?" And I was like, as soon as he said it, I was like, I have a choice here. I can say, yeah, I'm fucking pissed, or I can swallow this ego and just say, yeah, okay, all right, let's hug this out. Literally just hugged it out straight away. And he got back on the bike. He's like, rang us like the next part. He like rang us. He's like, I'm sorry. I'm like, I'm sorry too.
I'm sorry too.
Yeah,
That's
because
so
I
cute.
was riding, and I was like, look out for me. I need fucking food. I need water. I need to stop. Next minute, I just see my car coming and just go straight past me. And I was like, you fucking prick. And then I was like, that's all right. He's just pulling up around the road, around the corner, come up. Not there. Over a big hill, wasn't there.
Not there.
And I was like, where the fuck is he? And I like rang. I was like, at the end of the message, I was like,
yeah.
do better.
Do better. Whoa.
And then I knew it would trigger him because I was like,
Yeah.
either he would come and get me right
Yes.
now, or he'll be like, I'm literally
Bye.
just around the corner.
Or drive off.
Yeah, we'll drive off.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it said, I love you, but you need to do better.
Yeah.
And I like just went like this at a coffee stop. But get this, right? I'm sitting there drinking my small flat white. Like,
Eating a muffin.
how fucking dare you say I need to do better? Well, this poor bastard's busting his ass.
That is
I'm like-
hilarious.
and I'm sitting there, and I even rang Lauren. I was like, is he fucking serious? And Lauren's just like, just go get him.
So
Like this.
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So when you sent that message to him, what were you feeling?
I was crying.
No. What were you feeling? I bless
Pain.
you. Crying. So what were you feeling?
Like, I was about to die, honestly.
No. What emotions?
Oh,
were you
emotion. Oh, like, just sad.
feeling?
Just
Can I guess?
Yep.
So what were you doing? You'd ridden a fairway,
I read it in,
100 kilometers by then.
100 kilometers.
well, was it last day?
That was the last day. But
So
that was early in the
before
morning.
that,
So
I've ridden
can I-
400 and something
Okay,
kilometers.
can I guess? Maybe you were feeling exhausted, depleted, abandoned, lonely, maybe even a bit betrayed.
Not so much, betrayed. That's a good one. No, definitely not lonely. It was definitely like a bit, like, because I saw him drive past so many
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
Because in my head, every time I saw him drive past, I was just like, fuck. Like, something triggered in me.
Yeah.
And then, like, I'd see him go past, and I'm like, fuck, I've got to catch up to him now.
Yeah.
And then when I saw him go past that time, and it went so far away, I was just like, no, fuck this.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, like you said, it was just, sadness, I guess.
Sadness.
Lonely.
Yeah.
Well, not lonely, sorry. I don't think it was lonely for sure. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So what would it have been like if you could have shared that with him instead of do better? What if you could
Oh,
have
I did.
shared-
I said all that in the message. Like, it was a big message.
Yeah.
I like pulled over the side of the road,
Yeah.
mid hill,
Yeah.
and then just like rode. I didn't say do, but like there's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff. Like I did say like I'm feeling this.
Yeah.
I wish we could do this kind of thing, and then just said like I love you, but just do better. Like, and yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
It's a good little fight.
Yeah.
No,
We've had plenty more, but it gets resolved within literally 20 minutes.
yeah, he gave me a big ego check after Tegan Mun's podcast.
Oh yeah. Why is that?
I was very in my ego,
Oh.
very, yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And we got onto the call because we had our Zoom call after,
Mm-hmm.
and I got on there and I was eating food because we had like I went to work like I did today, and then did the podcast.
Yeah, exact same setting as this, yeah.
Yeah, did the podcast, went back and did the call, and then we got in the call. I'm eating food, and like one of the other guys asked me a question, and I just didn't really like. I just didn't care. I was just like, I just want to get this over and done with.
Mm.
And then Jacob said something. Did you say something about ego? You said you
Yeah,
said
yeah.
something, and I just said, yeah, it's always fucking me. And then he just went fucking boom and just blocked me out, and I was like, and then I sat there for a good hour and a half, just sitting in the room, just thinking. I was like, fuck, it's coming. And then he rang me, and then we just had a mad chat about it all. And the next day, like, had all this stuff set up to check my ego a bit better. And yeah, it was good. Good little realization.
Big stuff.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's just like, it's always me. It's never you. I was like, ooh,
Mm.
Ooh,
that
baby.
ego.
It was very there.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But exact same thing. You got resolved literally, straight after the call.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what makes healthy relationships, like quickly
Yeah.
repairing and not leaving that time. So you've obviously got the skills. And I think that's what a lot of people struggle with. Like, they avoid conflict because they just don't have the skills to do it well. So they know that it's always going to go pear-shaped. So, of course, we avoid it because we're doing that to protect ourselves and our relationship. So it makes sense. But when you give people the tools to be able to have those conversations,
Yeah.
then
I think a lot of people get the like when they do have the arguments, they don't really resolve it. They like argue it out about their point of views and everything, and then that's it. That's the argument done.
Yeah.
And then they just like you move on. And that's
Yeah.
like for me, that's what it was for my relationships. Like
Yeah.
I'd hear her side, she'd hear my side,
Yeah.
then that was it.
Yeah.
And then you wouldn't really work.
You wouldn't
through it.
actually get any understanding.
Yeah, you just be like, fuck her, like whatever.
Yeah, and this is where the whole, the emotional attunement and like going into someone else's experience. Like there's an exercise I take my clients through where and this is really powerful. I remember the first time I did this with my coach, I'd had this interaction. I'd been seeing this guy and, we'd broken up, and then about a year later he reconnected with me to reach out, and we caught up, and, it was really confusing. So we did this, and it was really painful to me that he would reach out and reconnect with me after he'd hurt me, because I wouldn't personally do that, right? I would, if I'd broken someone's heart, I would never contact them again unless I was 100% sure I wanted to be with them.
Sure.
So when he reconnected with me, it gave me all this hope. Even though when I look back, I can now see how ambivalent he was. Just the fact that he was reconnecting with me, right? So I was so angry and hurt and confused as to why he would do this. And so my coach took me through this exercise where it's like, I'm imagining, I'm in my experience, da-da-da-da-da, and then I had to go into his experience, and it took me so long. I was like, but no, why would he do this? Like, I don't get it. And then it really took my coach to sort of like pull it out of me. And he's like, well, if you were to think about the way things ended with you, like, do you think maybe there was some part of him that may have regretted like the ending of your relationship? And I knew that, yes, he was really torn, like didn't know if it was the right decision. Do you think there might have been some part of him that like really yearned to be around you and your warmth and your energy? I was like, definitely. He'd always say that to me, like that I always treated him so kind and lovely and da-da-da. Would there be some part of him that, maybe was unsure and needed to be around you to sort of like, make a decision?
Yeah.
So when he did that, I remember like feeling so emotional because I could actually totally understand why he would reach out to me, and it made sense. I was sort of like, wow, like it's because of the feelings he has for me, and I get that he's so confused, and that's what's so hard for him, and it was like the biggest gift. Like I really, for the first time, could really be in his shoes and see like, how easy that would be to want to be around me, but still how confusing he could be at the same time.
Sure.
He could be. And it was, that act is so hard, and I try to do that in every single misunderstanding or conflict that I have with anybody.
Yeah.
Because the more I can go into your experience and try and think what could be going on for you right now where we're feeling so blocked and at loggerheads, then I can start to connect to you and understand you. And it's hard because when you've grown up in an environment where you've had to fight so much to protect yourself and keep yourself safe, it makes so sense that that's hard to go into someone else's experience. If no one's ever offered that to you, if no parent has been able to witness you in your anger, your sadness, your loneliness, your confusion, and be with you and nurture you through that and witness you, it's going to be really hard for you to try and do that for somebody else.
Yeah.
So that makes so much sense why we're not good at it.
Sure.
But it is a skill that you can develop. And then when you do, then you start to realize, because I'm more of an anxious person. I'm moving to secure, but I tend to lean more on the anxious side.
Sure.
And so what do I tend to attract? Avoidant. So what's interesting is avoidance, shut down, withdraw, close down to protect the relationship. They're not doing it to avoid or to run away. They're doing it because they need to process. They need time, and they don't want to say anything that's going to damage the relationship. So they, in a weird way, they are doing it for you, the relationship. Even though for the anxious, it feels like abandonment. In that moment, for us, it feels like you're abandoning me because you're moving away. So for me, I want to talk about it. I want to resolve it. I want to solve this right now. That lands for them like feeling suffocated and like just overwhelmed. So can we just honor for a moment that two people can want to deal with conflict in two very different ways while both are trying to serve the relationship? So the work here is not in one getting their way and the other one, having to change. It's actually in both of them being influenced to come together. So it's in the avoidant, what I give my clients is, if you notice yourself needing space and you notice yourself wanting to talk, can we compromise and find a way at the end of an argument for an agreement to occur where you can take the space that you need? So that's you getting what you need, but you're being forced to self-soothe and sit in that space. You're being pushed you need to come back within 24 hours and still acknowledge and work through it. So it's not just being swept under the carpet. So your growth is coming back and actually having to have that conversation at some point, and therefore you get your needs met too. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
And this is the beauty of life. It's a paradox. It's all about polarity. It's all about, there's a beautiful saying, the growth comes in the opposite of what you normally do. So it's always the way, the growth is in not it being your way, but how can I be influenced? And this is the irony about relationships, right? You're always attracted to somebody for a certain reason. And then after the relationship, after the honeymoon phase, you start to resent that very thing about that person rather than accept influence and become more like that. So when you're attracted to something, it's because there's something within you that sees that light within them, those qualities and traits that you actually inherently want more of. But the work is in you cultivating and letting that in and growing. And the thing that you eventually judge and criticize and complain about usually is that same thing.
Yeah, okay. Do you think a lot of that too, comes from not having independence within a relationship? Like when you ask for space and stuff, a lot of relationships, when I was asking for space, it was like, why? And it was like, because she even said at the end of it, she was just like, she didn't have her independence. So when I would ask for space, it'd be like, oh, are you trying to abandon me or leave me? And but I wasn't. It was just she a lot of people lose their independence within a relationship and forget who they are. So when the partner does ask for space or does their own thing and they just do nothing, it's like that.
So you're always the person you are at the beginning of the relationship is who you are halfway through, at the end, whatever.
Yeah.
So can I go back and ask you a question? What was the relationship like in the beginning? Was there a lot of was it very full on, a lot of time spent together right from the get go?
No. So we were seeing each other on and off for 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's like that, and it was never dates or hanging out or just hanging out and stuff, but never anything publicly, I guess.
Yeah.
But then once we got together, it was it was very throughout the most of it was very all in each other's
Yeah.
ear. And then
So you can understand why you've gone from spending all this time together to all of a sudden wanting space, why that might land for her as abandonment.
Yeah.
And that might land for her as fear.
Yeah.
So I would suggest, like, if you love her and this is you're wanting, you know, there's a way you could communicate that in a way that can help create safety for her while also getting your needs met. And there's a way that you can do that. I'm guessing, and this is just because you're a typical bloke, I'm guessing you probably communicate it in some way of like, oh, I just need some space. Like, let me just.
It was more when I started to work on myself.
Yeah. But if you could have said to her, darling, you know, I really love you. And I've really loved the last 12 months that we've been spending time together. I'm also noticing I've kind of feel like I've lost myself a little bit. And there are some things that I'm really noticing I want to start, you know, I want to start showing up for myself. I want to start reconnecting with some friends again. I want to start getting back into the gym. And I think in order for us to have a healthy relationship, I would really think it would be good if we could have things where our shared interests, our time together, you have things that you like to do on your own and I like to have things that I like to do on my own. What do you think about that?
I said it a lot differently.
Yeah.
But I definitely said it was like she knew that I was trying to work on myself and like refile myself again as well.
Yeah.
And then like she was a bit of a partier.
Yeah.
And where I used to be.
Yeah.
And then like when I'm doing this work, it's like she would go out, I'd stay home.
Yeah.
And then like
and so therefore you've got a misalignment of values there.
And that's where it came down to.
Yeah. And so therefore you have to like that's just an example of who you were at the beginning of the relationship isn't what you were becoming.
Yeah.
You were growing, changing, and she wasn't quite there with you, ready. So therefore it becomes a matter of you're not aligned anymore.
Yeah.
And therefore you just can't continue because your interests and values are changing and hers have stayed the same.
The way it ended up was I sat down and wrote out my values and then our values as a relationship and then like what was serving her, like from my perspective, what was serving her from our relationship and then what was serving me.
Yeah.
And it was just like I was just holding her back from living her life. So like, and then it just pretty much came down to that. And I told her all that and she was just like, yeah, I feel that too. So then it was just like,
and I would just look at that as, you know, like that happens a lot when someone starts doing the work and the other person is resistant to it. It happens a lot. And, you know, it's one of those things where you can't control her. You can't want her to do the work. It's either up to her, she does it or she doesn't. But, you know, you're moving on to finding a new path and you will attract a more aligned partner where you have more of those things in common. And, you know, I talk my clients through two different things, right? So there's a pendulum. We've got codependent relationships over here, which are very much enmeshed, walking over each other's, like no boundaries, completely on top of each other, a life that no one really has their own sort of separateness, right? So it's almost two together. Then you've got independent, where two people are living together but kind of live their own lives. There's no shared interest, no shared meaning, no shared goals or visions. Then there's what's in the middle, which is interdependent. So you have your shared life, you have your goals, you're a family, and you've got that, you're always coming together and talking about that and connecting on that. And yet you've got your life and they've got their life too. And both are still independent of each other. Yeah. And that's the sweet spot. That's where definitely most people are happiest when they have their own ultimate paths, but they also have a shared path together. Most of the people that come to me are either in codependent or independent. Yeah. They're either too enmeshed and on top of each other, or they're completely distant. Yeah. So the work is finding that middle ground.
Nice. Well,
and usually what's interesting is, you know, they can either swing too. Like you might have a couple that's codependent in the beginning, like long-term couples. Like I've got couples now that have been working with that have been together for 20, 30 years where they started off codependent and then, you know, after the honeymoon phase and children, whatever, they just go completely independent and then they're just like roommates living in a home. So yeah, it's really fascinating. But at the end of the day, like relationships need work, you know, you've got to constantly be working on them. You've got to they're always inviting you to open, to deepen, to open to intimacy, and not just intimacy in physical in the bedroom, but sharing what's on your heart, like sharing what's alive within you, like, you know, what's actually happening for you. A lot of people really fear that. A lot of people can't do it. You know, I ask people like, how are you feeling right now? Like, what are you feeling? And they're like, oh, but I think they should have just done this. It's like, no. What are you feeling? You know, it's like we're so detached and disconnected from our heart. And there's a beautiful saying, we go into our thinking mind because the pain in our heart is too great. When we find ourselves thinking, we're avoiding pain in our heart. And the work is in revisiting our heart over and over again. What's in there? What's in there? What's in there? And opening a layer and another layer and another layer. And then when you start to operate from that space, then it's like connection. And then you find beauty in all of it. You know, the ugly, the beautiful, the pain, the heartbreak, it's all beautiful because it all takes you somewhere.
Yeah,
like it's
100%.
all giving you something.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, if I looked at my life three years ago to the day, like I was living in an Airbnb, I was the most depressed I've ever been. You know, I literally was like trying to will myself to walk off a cliff. Like I literally was. If it wasn't for my niece and nephew, I probably would have. But I just kept thinking about them and I was like, oh my God, I couldn't do it to them.
Yeah.
And, you know, but at the time I also, even though I was in the depth of that pain, I also knew that something beautiful was happening because I'd been here before.
Yeah.
Your first dark night of the soul, you don't really know what's going on. I've had a couple now, so I'm sort of experienced. So even though I was in this pain, I knew. I was like, I know this is happening for me, even though it's awful right now.
Yeah.
What is it? And now looking back, it all makes sense. Like now the work that I do, like, oh my gosh, you know, if someone had said to me, Nerida, your first 35 years on this planet are going to be okay. Like some of them are going to be really, really hard. Maybe 20 of them are going to be really, really hard. And then, you know, there'll be some that are really good, but there'll always be this speckle of sadness and loneliness and depression and just this sense of like, and it's so weird for people to think this about me because I'm like the most, you know, outgoing, friendly person. People would hear my story about depression and suicide and think, what?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. I was able to be outgoing and fun and loving, but deep down when I was on my own, I felt so lonely. I could be with a group of girls or people
lonely.
and feel so lonely.
Yeah.
I really could.
Yeah.
If someone said to me, your first 35 years are going to be really, really tough and you're not going to know if you want to be here anymore, but if you can get past that, you will spend the next 35 doing the deepest work and, you know, unlayering and uncovering yourself and helping others to do the same. Will you take that? Or even if it's 5 or 10 years, I could die tomorrow. These last 5 years would still be worth it.
I like that. That's good.
And that's what we need to, there's, you know, that other saying, we all have two lives. And the first one begins when we realize we only have one. So it's like, you know, it's when you go through that pain and that waking up, it's like, holy shit. But it's like all that pain before it is still worth it.
Yeah, definitely.
Because most people don't ever get to this.
Yeah.
Most people live in the grey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is so sad. I feel for those people.
Yeah.
People say to me all the time, oh, I feel so bad that you had so much trauma. It's like, oh, darling, don't feel bad because I'm happier now than you will ever be.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for you because you're never going to be pushed to really do that work.
Yeah.
You're just going to live in this grey and just sort of be disconnected and a little bit like, But while ever you're numb and in the middle and you're in this like, you not only do you numb the bad, but you also numb the good.
Yeah, definitely.
You also don't. I'll never forget it. The very first time, it would have been about 3 years ago, maybe 2.5. Like it was a couple of months into this lockdown. I remember hearing all this stuff like, you've got to feel your pain, you've got to feel it. And I was like, what does that even mean? I don't even understand. And I could feel this like wave of sadness and like fear coming and like, oh my God, I'm so alone. No one loves me. Because I suffer from the unlovable wound, right? That's my wound. You know, and I deeply, deeply felt unlovable. Like another man has said no to me. No one's ever going to want to marry me. No one's ever going to want to have a family with me. Like all those thoughts. And I remember hearing, you know, you've got to feel your pain. You've got to feel your pain. I was like, okay, all right, I'm doing it. I'm just going to let myself howl, cry, rock myself to sleep. You know, I'm just going to let it all out. And I did for like 24 hours. I literally let myself cry and cry and cry. I sat, I felt my body, like I could feel it in my heart. I could feel this deep grief. And then I finally like fell asleep and I woke up looking shocking the next day, like terrible. And I thought, oh my God, I need to go for a walk and just go and get some sunshine. I'd been crying and crying and crying. I was so depleted. And I'll never forget, it was the most beautiful day, but it was like an autumn day. So it was like cool wind, but sun. And I walked downstairs and I walked out and it was like all of a sudden I could see trees swaying in the wind. And I felt the wind on my face. I felt the sunshine on my skin. And I could smell, like it was like all of a sudden every single sense that I had was so alert. And I just was like, oh my God, I get it.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was, I had let myself really feel it, like really feel it. And now even the simplest of things I could feel as well.
That was good. I was in that moment. I felt everything as well.
Yeah.
Good
Like,
storyteller.
I was just stroking my beard. Like,
Yeah.
Me too.
I was like, that was nice.
But it's so true. I can walk down the street and like be at bliss in the sunshine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I'm always saying to my clients, go and sit in the sun, go and breathe.
Yeah, sun's the best.
And they're like, what? Really? Like, how's that going to help me?
And
I'm
then
like,
they
just
do
try
it, and then they're like, yep. I
Just
see
try it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I got to go coach now, mate.
Yeah.
40, yeah.
Told you I couldn't talk.
I gotta go grocery
I
shopping.
just looked over there and I was just like, oh, I'm going to be late to coach.
2 hours. I'm so sorry. Thank
Yeah,
you so
no.
much for having me.
Oh, you're
Thank
so
you for
welcome.
coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for,
My absolute pleasure.
Yeah. Well, thank you for everyone for listening to my relationship advice. And all my
Coaching Tahi 101.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, Lauren.
yeah, fuck you, Lord.
I'm not getting dinner tonight.
That's all right. I got
Oh,
you
it'll
back.
probably be
Come to
tomorrow.
my house.
Yeah, it'll be tomorrow night. Oh, no, it doesn't come out till Friday, so I've still got a week.
Yeah, he's still a week of goodness. But no, thank you for coming on. That was great. Finally got you here, so
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll do another one
Where
again.
can they find you?
Yeah, connect with me on Instagram. That's where I spend most of my time. Nerida BInt,
Yep.
NERIDABINT. Love to hear from you. Please, if this resonates, let me know.
Yeah.
Send me a message. It's,
Perfect.
yeah, lovely to connect with you guys, and I love what you do. So, thank you so much.
No,
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's our absolute pleasure, and like everything that you do, I stand for it. And,
Yeah, you're my biggest supporter.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'm trying. And Nerida's podcast is dropping.
Yes,
very,
I'm
very
so
soon, so-
excited. Yes, I'll be. Yep. Actually, as this goes live, you will be able to listen to my podcast. So yes,
There you
Yeah.
go.
yeah, the Nerida BInt podcast.
There you go. Yeah, names
Look me up.
Name? Are you going to land that name? Is that the
Yeah,
name?
I think so.
All right, that's it.
We're just gonna run with it.
Righto. All right, yeah. Yeah, so Nerida will be in here filming her potties and everything like that.
Yes,
So,
thank you so much for all your support
So
in
welcome.
so many ways.
welcome.
I'm so grateful for you.
so welcome.
Polaris chef.
Yes, yes. Oh, don't worry. I've already got some ideas how we can turn
One
this,
more time, baby, and she's in.
yeah, 3 times. That's twice.
I'm a responder. Yeah.
Oh, sweet. All right.
All right,
Thank you,
okay,
everyone,
go.
for listening, and we'll talk to you again
All
next
right.
time.
Bye.
Peace.
Bye.